Hello and welcome to a quick overview of Excel Tutorial 5 for K201. In this tutorial we will look at tables and pivot tables. On the hardware sheet we have a list of computers, manufacturer, model, category, whether it's a desktop, laptop, handheld, the date purchased, price, and whether or not it's under warranty. And the handhelds, if you will notice, are not under warranty, everything else is. First step, we're going to convert this data into a table so that Excel treats it as a table. To do that, we select any cell inside the table and click Insert Table. Excel looks around and finds the borders of this data and says, is this the range? And also I found some headers, ID, manufacturer, and model. So everything looks good, and we'll go ahead and click OK. Now our table by default is named with a number, just table 5 for example, and we'll call it with a meaningful name. We'll call it hardware. Also notice on the columns there are these drop down buttons. Those are controlled by the filter button on the data tab. If I click the filter button, now they will go away. If I click it again, they will reappear. So let's go ahead and do some filtering. First, we're only interested in looking at some DELs. So on the manufacturer, let's go ahead and choose the drop down and deselect the first option and choose only the DELs and click OK. Now let's say we wanted to look at the Dell laptops. We're already filtering on Dells, and we can add a second filter and look at laptops only. So I could just deselect the desktops, and then when I click OK, now we're looking at only laptops. Let's also do a price filter, but instead of choosing an exact price, let's do a number filter. What we are interested in is a laptop that costs more than $900. So if I choose the greater than and then put in the value 900, now I'm only looking at the Dell laptop that costs more than $900. To remove these filters, I could do them one at a time from these buttons by clearing the filter here. This is for the price. Okay, so no more price filter, all the Dell laptops. Or I could just go to the data tab and use the clear button. Now all the filters get cleared and we're looking at the complete table. Next, let's take a look at sort. When we sort from here, we have the option to sort ascending or descending. So when I sort it, but this is only a one column sort. When I sort it by manufacturer, it's sorted by manufacturer, and if I sort it by model, now it will be sorted by model. And if I wanted to do a multi-column sort, then I would use the sort button on the data tab. And on the first one, let's say we want to sort it by category. We'll leave it A to Z and add a second level. In the second level, we'll do it by date, and we'll do it newest to oldest. Okay, so the newest is at the top. So now if we look at it sorted by category, and all the laptops are together here, and within the laptop category, the newest is at the top and the oldest is at the bottom. Now if we think about the category from the size perspective, it doesn't really make sense because the desktops are listed at the top, then handhelds and laptops, because this is an alphanumeric sort. What we want is the sort to be done based on size. We want the handhelds to be at the top, the smaller computers, then the laptops, and then the desktops. To do that, we'll go to the sort option. Instead of using the A to Z sort, we'll do a custom sort, a custom list. And we will create our own list as handheld, then laptop, and then desktop. We'll add this list and then click OK. So now in this drop down we have both the ascending and the descending by size. So if we choose the ascending from smallest to largest, now the handhelds are at the top, laptops, and then desktops. Next, we'll take a look at pivot tables. A pivot table is a flexible table used for summarizing data. Flexible just meaning that we can easily adjust the rows and columns, what goes in the rows and what goes in the columns. And for summarizing, we can add kind of summaries like averages or totals or counts or some other functions. So let's go ahead and create the pivot table. So on the Insert tab, the first button is for pivot tables. Now because we named our table hardware, that's one of the options in here, and that's the only table there, so we're going to use this. And create the pivot table on a new worksheet. That's fine. So we'll click OK. On the left hand is where the pivot table will be created. On the right hand side is the control area. So this is like a control center. So the summary that we wanted to create, let's say that we are interested in looking at the price by manufacturer and category. So since those are the three fields that I mentioned, the price, manufacturer, and the category, we'll go ahead and select all three of them. By default, all numeric fields, Excel will throw them here into the values, and other fields come up into the row labels. And these four boxes are really what control the structure of the pivot table. And we can very easily drag things from one box to another to change the structure. Now, right now we're looking at, under the row labels, we have both the manufacturer and the category. So there's the manufacturer, Apple, Dell, and HP, and the categories are listed under them. If we wanted the category to be a column label, we'll just drag this category from row and drop it into the column labels. And now the categories are up here: handheld, laptop, and desktop, and the manufacturer is on the left. And if we wanted to switch that, we want the manufacturer to be the columns, we just easily drag the manufacturer here, drag the category here. Okay, so the manufacturer is now the column, and the category is the rows. On the values, we see that it says sum of price. If we click this button, we have these value field settings. From here we can do a couple of things. One is to choose what kind of a function to apply. Do we want the sum of price, or do we want the average price, or any of these other options listed? But we can also do a number format. Because these are dollar amounts, we want to show them as currency. So we can choose currency and maybe even reduce the decimal places. And I'm going to click OK. So now we're looking at the sum of the price, but by category and manufacturer. There is this other box called report filter. And you can imagine this being like the pages of the report, and certain pages are included in the report and certain pages can be excluded from the report. So let's say we wanted to look at warranty also. We add the warranty. By default it goes into the row labels, and we can click and drag it into the report filter. So right now this summary shows up for all computers regardless of warranty, because it says all. Now if we were only interested in those computers that have a warranty, we would choose this drop down. And if we needed to select multiple items, we would first check this box, and then we could say, we could check as many items as we needed. But in this case, since there are only two options, I'm just going to use the yes option. So only show me the things that have a warranty. I'm going to click OK. So if you remember from earlier that the laptops and the desktops are the only ones that have a warranty, the handhelds don't. And this sort of makes sense now. And I could again go back here and say, now let's take a look at things that don't have a warranty, and only the handhelds should show up. And that makes sense. Next, we will take a look at grouping. We'll create another pivot table. So I'm going to go back here to my hardware list, and we'll insert a pivot table and also put it on a new worksheet. In this one, I am interested in grouping things by date. I want to know how many things were purchased on what date. So first thing I'll do is add the date purchased, and for counting purposes I'll just add the ID. Now by default, ID goes into this value field and it's showing me a sum of ID. Well, that doesn't make sense. We don't want to add up the ID numbers. So what I'll do is first thing, change the field settings and use count, which makes more sense. Okay, so now what it's showing me is that on this date, I bought 2 computers on this date, 2, and 1 on this one and 1 on that one. And now if we wanted to group these by year, I have to first select a field in the date column. Only then will this group fields be highlighted. If I am selecting something other than that, if I select, say for example, this field, the group field isn't highlighted. Okay, so I have to make sure that I select the date and then click the group field. And now I can say group by year and deselect the month and then click OK. Now everything is grouped by year. We have the 2010, we bought 7 computers. In 2011, bought 1 of them. And to create a pivot chart is as simple as clicking the pivot chart button. From here we can select the type of chart we want, clustered column, and click OK. And now we have the pivot chart and we also have a filtering pane. So on this one we could choose what to show and what not to show. So if we don't want to see what was purchased in 2011, then we would deselect that and then click OK. So the chart only shows for 2010. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back in here, and there it is. So if we by mistake get rid of this pane, you can get it back from the Analyze tab. There's the pivot chart filter. That concludes this overview. Thank you for listening.